Good morning. This is a Clarion Voice live from the Hub Studios. We're going to find out more information about how to prevent child trafficking with our guest today. So stay tuned for a Clarion. This is Mark Sobowitz with the Clarion Voice, and we hope that you're enjoying your Tuesday. And today we have an old friend with us who's going to be talking about preventing child trafficking. And this all came about with me watching Sound of Freedom last week and how it's stirred me up to try and get this out there to have people more aware. And our friend Patrick Erlandson from Father Con is with us to join us and talk about his group and what he's been doing recently. Patrick, welcome back. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's always a pleasure to be here. I look forward to any opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Well, thank you so much. Tell us what you've been doing. You've been going out there and putting out the word about Father Con and various different venues. And where has this taken you?
Well, interestingly, I was invited to come and speak at the United Nations, the 32nd Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice in Vienna, in Austria. This is a gathering of organizations, agencies, delegates from all over the world to look at different issues of how do we prevent crime, including human trafficking. So human trafficking is one of the areas that's covered under UNODC, which is the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. So they hosted this event. So I went to give a presentation, and I was actually able to present to all of the delegates, from 300 or 400 delegates from all over the world, on the importance of fathers. That if we really want to prevent crime, we have to really invest in educating, informing, and really enabling fathers to be inspired about their role and to understand their significant impact that they have on children. So that's what I addressed there.
And what was the response that you got from the delegates?
Quite interesting. I mean, I was immediately approached by the delegate from Norway who said, "Thank you so much." He goes, "Nobody talks about fathers here." And so much of the efforts within the United Nations and also with a lot of the aid organizations globally it's focusing on women's empowerment. And one of the things that came up for me in preparation for that was the UN's figures are that there is now 100 million single mothers in the world. 100 million single mothers, which means there's upside of 300 plus million children being raised in a home without a father. And when you break that down, when you start looking at the consequences of homes without a father, your poverty rates are 5 times higher. Your violence rates, behavioral problems are through the roof. Dropping out of school, failure to follow through with education, especially for boys, is very high. And we have about 85% of the people in prison are coming out of fatherless homes. And so that, yeah. And these are, the UN has these sustainable development goals, which are a mixed bag of good, bad, and ugly, and extremely dangerous. But part of those goals, so I wanted to kind of like hit on these goals. Like, if you're really serious about this and you ignore the importance of fathers, that's just absurd. If you want to reduce poverty and you're not taking into account that the poverty rates are 5 times higher for single mothers, giving money to the mothers is not going to solve the problem. And that's kind of what's being done. We have to kind of have a support system for fathers and keep fathers in the home, keep fathers present in the lives of their children. And we need to make that inspiring and a really positive experience for fathers.
Do you think that people are listening to that message? I mean, are you feeling like you're making some headway now that you've expanded your horizons as far as speaking to these various groups?
Yes, I mean we had responses from the delegates in Uganda, from Kenya, from Austria, from Holland, from Chile in South America. All of them kind of responded really enthusiastically because they're all dealing with the problem. It's just what's kind of being pushed is as a solution is women's empowerment, and the problem with that is you're empowering women to kind of separate from men instead of finding a way for us to really celebrate parenting and learn how the unique contributions that fathers make. And I keep harping on this, but it's like there was this long study done that showed that empathy is more communicated, more encouraged by the father than the mother. And that seemed very counterintuitive to me because you think of the mother as being the gentle, supporting.
Mhm.
But when you break down how fathers interact and play with their children, the they push things to the limits. So they push things to a point where somebody gets hurt. Typically, this is generalizations, right?
Right.
But it's like when you enable a child to to push to the limit. So if for example, the son keeps pushing his little sister down, and this little sister starts crying, and then the father says, "Okay, that's it. We're not playing anymore." And then the kid said, "But I want to keep playing." And so then he has to make the connection to, if I don't take care of the feelings of other people, I'm gonna not get what I want, which is to keep playing with dad. And there's all
Okay.
these things that the dynamics that happen in the way that a father plays with his kids that actually viscerally you're learning empathy. You're having to consider the feelings of other people. The mother protects you from ever reaching that point.
The father that's depicted in the movie seemed like he didn't quite know what was going on. I think he was, a very loving father, very empathetic towards his children. But it's like he got, for lack of a better way of saying it, he got sucked into this grooming process, so to speak, and didn't realize, what the outcome was going to be. I mean, is that something that fathers find themselves in, those kind of situations?
Absolutely. And especially with divorce. I mean, in the movie is interesting because there's no mother in the picture.
Right.
Right? I mean, there's only the father with the two kids. And the father wants to love and take care of his child. And the daughter becomes enamored with this idea of becoming like a star, or becoming, a singer or an entertainer. And so the father wants to support her dreams. I mean, nothing wrong with that,
Right.
right? But if you understand that that's one of the most common approaches of traffickers, in the process of recruiting and grooming a child, is you play on their desire to be famous and popular. And it's not just someone approaching you on the street. Like she meets the girl in the mall, she hears the girl sing in the shopping mall, and that's how she targets the little girl in the movie, and then approaches the father, and then gets the father's support. So the father actually hands her over to the traffickers, right? Because he doesn't
Right.
understand what's happening, and he's trying to be a good loving father to take care of his daughter. But that point where, and this is the thing that I've noticed, across the board, almost everyone I know that's been trafficked, there were red flags, there were warning signs that told them something's not right here, but they kind of like overrode it, because the guy's cute, the guy's nice, to me. And so they override that ping of conscience, or the whatever kind of alarm bells are going off. And I think for that father, you saw it in the father when the woman says, "No, you can't come in," and she blocks the father, and she says, "Come back at 7 o'clock and pick them up."
Right.
And you can see in him this like, wait a minute, what's going on here? This isn't right.
Yeah,
But he kind of like, well, okay, I'll trust you with my kids. And it's like, I think, if we develop that sense, like, no, there's absolutely no way I'm leaving here with you. I'm not leaving my kids with you. What would the girl have said? She would have said, okay, well, then they can't come into the audition, and then it's kind of like, well, okay, but if I'm not coming in with them, if I'm not going to be there with my kids, then this is not happening.
well, isn't that playing on the emotions of the father? Because the father wants to be empathetic towards his children and, do the best
Exactly.
that he can. But okay, if you're talking to a father, whether they're a single father or they're in a committed marriage or whatever, how do you tell a father, okay, this is the sign that something is wrong? How do you tell a person that?
You tell them this is a technique that's commonly used. If you understood that this is how traffickers get a hold of children, they play on their dreams, they play on their hopes, and then they manipulate them into a situation where they become exploited. And so if you're a father and you do not want this to happen to your child, then you at that moment when you feel something's off, trust your gut
Right.
and insist, like, I'm not leaving, I'm going to stay here in front of this door until I get my kids back. I mean, it's like the priority has to be on protecting your kids. And so
Sure.
you can still be the nice guy. I mean, he could have left them there and he could have said, well, I'm not leaving my kids. I mean, I don't know you. Like, I'm not going to leave my kids with you. And if you've heard, and this is the thing, I think if parents realize, meeting a stranger online, where all of a sudden this becomes your kid's best friend in 2 weeks, where they're so infatuated with this new friend that they don't care about their other friends. They start lying to their parents. These are clear signs that there's something off in this relationship, and the parents have to get involved. And
Which
so
is
it's
which is why the parents need to be more aware of these signs,
exactly.
because and Susan brought it up earlier about the fact that the internet has become more insidious as far as you know people pretending to be something that they're not, and enticing people, to and enticing children who are, vulnerable. We're talking about people, kids that are like 13, 14 years old on the average. I think, I mean, there are younger children, but they're
Yeah.
being enticed by by all these promises on the internet, and it's hard to, get a child away from the internet because of all the things that they watch, the video games and things like that, so you have to strike a balance, and there has to be some way for the parent to understand, that, wait a minute, this is, they have to be more aware of the fact that this is a
Yeah.
potential problem.
Well, this is what this is what I like about the movie. There are a lot of survivors, and there's a number of people domestically that are kind of whispering complaints against Sound of Freedom, because one of the battles that people fighting human trafficking have had, and I know this firsthand because I started in 2010 or 2011, and it was always people's thinking is it's an over there problem. So it's in Honduras, it's in Colombia, it's in India, it's in Cambodia, but there's a failure to recognize that we have middle school girls climbing out of their bedroom windows at home to go service some man in his car because her trafficker has just given her an order by her cell phone that's next to her bed to come out and take care of this guy or else.
Mhm.
So we fail to see the domestic side of it, which plays out very differently. I mean, I talked to a police officer friend of mine recently, and he said we have these girls, they'll run away from home for 2 weeks, and they'll be in a gang, a home that's owned by gang members, and they're going to be sold for 2 weeks, and then they go back home and they go back to school, and the parents are freaking out for 2 weeks, and then the kids come back home, and then a couple months later they're gone again. And so you have these gang members that are using 13-year-olds in this way, and they may buy them a new iPhone, give them a gift, and then that's enough to make them exploitable, and they feel kind of this loyalty, they feel like they're taken care of, they feel like they're loved by this gang member, and he's got them on a mattress for 2 weeks. And it's
That blows my mind, because that's why people need to be more aware of the issue. I mean, you have to, granted, as I've never been a parent, so I can't speak from that perspective. But if I were a parent and if I saw something like that happening, I would ask a question. Wait a minute, how is this happening? I'm not buying the gifts or whatever. So where is it coming from? You have to ask questions.
It's exactly right. And this is where, I mean, so my whole point of the prevention of trafficking starts with parents being trusted by their kids. And that's not an easy thing today. because everything is telling kids now that you're responsible for your own life and you don't have to listen to your parents. And God forbid you listen to your church or kind of religious ideas, or science. But we have this messaging now that you are responsible for your life. You're the only person who knows you. We're putting this on kids. That's cruel. I mean, it's just, a child is meant to grow up under the loving care and protection and guidance of their parents. But one problem is that parents have gotten derailed by all of the devices and all of the distractions, of the 21st century. And so we have parents, and kids don't trust their parents. They don't feel like their parents even know them. So, this person doesn't know me. Why should I listen to him tell me that I shouldn't have my phone next to my bed at night?
Right.
It's so parents have to really prioritize kind of the trust relationship with their kids. It's the number one prevention and protection for your kids, is that if they can trust you and they go, look, this kid showed me this something at school today, and it made me kind of creeped out, so what do you think? Like, if a child feels like, I can actually come and talk to my parents, or a trusted adult, if there's a trusted adult, and I think there has to be a man, there has to be a trusted male figure in kids' lives, and without that, there's a deficit and a gap that is being filled by the promises and the seduction of exploiters.
Sure.
And it's beyond just trafficking. I mean, recently, this movie Sextortion came out, that's done by a friend of mine, Opal Singleton, and it's sextortion has just really exploded. And you have guys in Nigeria that are posing as hot, sexy 18-year-olds who are reaching out to kids, boys in the middle of the night, and let's play around. You look really cute and stuff, and so let's have some fun and entice the guy into doing something that's being videoed and photographed. And as soon as he's done, being enticed by this cute girl who's actually some 40-year-old guy in Nigeria, he then it's like, well, I got this on video, and I'm going to show this to your parents, and I'm going to show this to all your friends at school. And if the kid is opened up, which kids talk, this guy knows that he's on the soccer team. He knows that he can send this to his soccer coach. He can derail his future plans for college. So he then threatens the kid to pay him $5,000 or else. And we have a senator in South Carolina whose teenage son committed suicide. We have an increasing number of boys that are committing suicide because this is what's happening to them. And with boys, it tends to be money. Give me this money, or else I'm going to expose this to you, all the people that you know. With girls, it's like, okay, taking them a step further. Okay, now take off all your clothes and do this for me. And if you don't do exactly what I want when I want it, I'm going to send this video to everyone and destroy you. And so there's that component, as well as the human trafficking. But the predatory opportunities of the internet are extreme. And this is where kids have got to be able to come and talk to their parents. And if they feel that they can trust their dad. I mean, one trafficker said, he goes, I stay away from any girl who's got a good relationship with her father. I stay away from that girl.
That makes sense. So, I mean, men have to step up and establish that trust with their parents, in order, and with their children, rather, to be able to at least establish a solid foundation, so that the traffickers won't be attracted to that kind of situation. But what you're describing is happening more and more. I mean, it's like in the same thing like bullying or something like that. The internet has become an insidious device, to use against these children who are vulnerable and who don't have a lot of life experience, and they just they want want all these things, and it just boggles my mind. There's another thing that came out of our previous conversation with Susan, about the fact that schools are also a place where kids can be exposed to different things, and traffickers may go to schools or something like that, or pose as students. I mean, are there issues where you're trying to get into the schools to make people aware of these problems, and getting the fathers involved through that means?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've encouraged for years is to have a human trafficking club on campus. So you've got peer-to-peer education, and then so unfortunately, COVID derailed so much of this effort. There were a lot of middle schools, high schools were having clubs on campus, and then they could have events. They were peer driven, but raising awareness of what the dangers were. And then if there's like, so what we would do then is we would support the students. So if they wanted to show a film, I'll get them the film. I'll get them the filmmakers to come to their campus, to come and do a discussion. There's a lot of ways that we can get information onto the campus. Just having some old guy come and try to tell kids not to not to screw up on the internet. I mean, that goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
It's important, but we also need the peer-to-peer. And as we educate a group of students who then feel really motivated and empowered and are given the resources, then they can actually influence a whole campus. San Diego, they did a sting. They did a 2-year sting, and they ended up catching 70 people within, I think it was 2 different school districts in San Diego. But they had cops that went undercover as students.
Okay.
It was so nice to look like I was a high school student again. They had these undercover cops, posing as students, and they found there were all these recruiters. So you had the traffickers will have, they've got a girl who's a student at the school, and she's looking for vulnerable kids. She's looking for girls who are a little bit shy or a little bit insecure, and she's the one who's identifying who's vulnerable. And then she, eventually builds up a relationship, and then she invites them, to come to meet her uncle or her older boyfriend or
Right.
whatever the ruse is. Mm-hmm. And that's effective, and again, a trafficked human being can make a lot of money. And so it's worth the investment. They'll invest 6 months, and, go out to a restaurant, buy them little gifts, get their fingernails done. Anything that's going to captivate that girl's heart. And increasingly boys. I mean, you have increasingly, this is one of the problems with pornography. Pornography has really expanded the appetite, the sexual appetite of men, to want novel, unique, and taboo experiences. And so there's increasingly, going after boys as well. But, once you win that person and they feel like, oh, this is a guy that cares about me. This is a person who I can mm-hmm. trust. Again, it's, yeah.
I have a burning question for you.
Okay.
Why do you think that the problems that we've been talking about, are more prevalent here in the United States? Because as I understand it, we're the biggest purveyor of, pornography and trafficking in the world. And I'm just wondering, is it the fact that the family is not what it used to be, and it's not, husband and wife or whatever, or there's not a solid foundation there? Why do you think that there's more of a problem here than there is anywhere else?
Well, I would question that it's, that gives a distorted view that it's only here, and it's really not. I mean, it is across the board. But any developed country that has resources and money, I think 10-year-olds have smartphones here. You don't have that in India. You don't have that in other countries. Right?
Okay.
When I went to Cambodia, though, you had if kids got a smartphone, a lot of the smartphone companies, like the shady guys who work for the smartphone companies, well, for an extra charge, they'll install kind of a pornography on your phone, for a kid who's buying a phone. I mean, it is a problem, like across or all around the country. But America, we have more money. We have a lot of free time. We've had a deteriorating education system. We've had an education system that's really gone to, a side of influence that's actually damaging to families.
Right.
We've had a decline in religious, instruction, education, involvement. We've had the breakup of the family. There are a number. I mean, we could talk for an hour just about the consequences of the pill, the consequences of no fault divorce. The attack on the family since the 60s has been growing, and so you have an attack on family, attack on religion. Those are the two obstacles to, a kind of a socially engineered society, which is what I encourage people to reread Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. you have things in it, and this is written in the 1930s, and he saw a time coming where, you sexualize children, you make sex all about having fun, all about enjoyment. It's all about you just like having a good time, disconnected from procreation. We now have, pro-abortion, young people saying that what is it? The baby is a parasite. They're referring to a child in the womb of a mother as a parasite, and gleefully talking about the wonders of abortion and what a great asset this is to women. We have this. So the pill was completely damaging to women, to children, but I argue also to men. It before that, a woman could say no. She's like, I might get pregnant. I'm not going to sleep with you. Once the pill came, then it became, you drop the ability for a girl to say no, because, well, even if I'm not taking the pill exists. So it's kind of this artificial sense of I can now respond in a different way. You have boys feeling like, well, kind of, no girl can say no to me, so I'm kind of entitled. So the pill came out, which is supposed to reduce all these unwanted pregnancies, but the sexual activity increased. So then you need an abortion. So then you push for a legalized abortion. But the evil intent of that is you're disconnecting the act of sex from procreation. You want to disconnect it, so it's no longer one of the consequences. It's an unnecessary and unwanted consequence of your biology working properly. And I heard one woman was saying that the pill was the first time we created a medicine to make your body not work properly. It's
That's crazy.
Disrupting the normal function of a healthy body.
Oh boy.
And then you bring in divorce, and then with the extreme pornography, production of pornography, you have this constant allure to men. My life should be much more exciting than it really is. My wife does not do what this girl's doing, and I would like that experience. So you're creating this appetite and interest, a dissatisfaction with what you have, the easy ability to get divorced and to remove yourself from a situation, the easy access to millions of women around the world that men never had before. I mean, you can look at, I forget the data on that, but it's like a person can see, like 10 million naked women, today, where in the past it would have been 10, maybe, just the exposure, is so extreme. And America is, because we have money, we have discretionary time, we have discretionary income, and so we're targeted. Drugs. Why we have 100,000 people dying of fentanyl in America? It's like, we're targeted because of those things. And as religion becomes a weaker influence in people's lives, to where our morals are not being shaped by a recognition of our being created, and that there actually is an order to the universe, there is intention behind our existence. Anything goes. It's right. Like, all's fair.
Is there are there any programs that you are promoting for FatherCon coming up?
Well, we just had an interesting one in June. After I got back from Vienna, we had fathers reading to their kids, and I think this is one the things that we want to support with FatherCon are areas like this. If you understand that you're going to be the person that's increasing empathy in your child, how you play is important, because so things like play. But another thing is reading. If a father reads to their child, it's different from the mother. The father spends 15, 20 minutes reading to his child, and really engaging the child in his reading. The child retains about 15 to 20% more language. So it actually increases their vocabulary, it increases their engagement with language. It makes them, the data shows that they'll stay in school longer. They're less prone to drop out. I mean, so we had a reading event. We had fathers got up and read from books. We had some authors read books. It was, we had the mayor of Downey come out, and we had a lot of support. But to really, it's a simple thing you can do. And I talked to so many dads who said, yeah, I do this. I come home and my kids won't go to sleep till I come home and read to them.
That's fantastic.
And it's incredible. And the long-term gain from that little investment by a dad is huge. You know, sometimes we think we have to do this magnificent, huge thing, you know, in order to take care of our kids and protect our kids. But sometimes it's the smallest things. Go play with your kid, you know.
That's so well spoken. I mean, because it's the simple things. We make it too complicated sometimes. Yeah. If somebody wanted to get in contact with you, would it be fathercon.org? Is that right?
If they want to email me, it's Patrick at father-con.org.
Okay.
And then the website is www.father-con.org. And I welcome anyone to reach out. We have to get the awareness. We have to raise the awareness, and we have to engage.
Absolutely.
You know, and have more fathers do these little things. Reading, you know, play with your kids. You know, I mean, it just about the play thing. I can't emphasize that strongly enough. And it doesn't mean sitting down next to your kid and playing a video game. For them to learn empathy,
right?
You know, and this is what fathers are doing. They're bonding with their kid. They're spending time with their kid, but you're killing people. You know, this is not increasing empathy to play a video game next to each other. You need to get out and throw a ball around. Get hit by the ball. Let you know, push things to a point. Get your kid to jump out of the tree into your arms. You know, like so that they know that they can actually trust you. There's things, little things that you do in interacting in real life with your kids that'll change the trajectory of their life. And you know, believe it. You know, we are indispensable and critically important as fathers and as father figures. I mean, if you haven't been a father, but you're interacting with kids, you're interacting with people, and in the role of a father, you have a position to be a trusted male figure in the lives of kids. We have kids that don't have any trusted male figures in their lives. That's a huge problem.
Yeah, very definitely. But as always, Patrick, we always love hearing from you and your perspective, and we'll always support FatherCon no matter what. So
I'm going to get you down. You're going to broadcast live from FatherCon.
Ooh, okay. I'd love to do that. That would be great. But in any case, thank you again for speaking with us, and we certainly hope that we'll continue to keep the lines of communication open so that people can continue to be aware and recognize how serious a problem that this is. So thank you again, Patrick. And for those of you who want to know more about Patrick's work, please go to the website www.father-con.org, or you can email Patrick at father-con.org as well. And so Patrick will be glad to respond to you. And if you want to show support or help out in any way, please do so. And again, we certainly hope that you'll go and see the Sound of Freedom movie if you haven't, or go online to angel.com/freedom and get a free ticket for somebody who hasn't seen it, and go with them again if you have to, just to see it again, just to become more aware. And so this is Mark Sobowitz for A Clarion Voice. Bud, appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. I always feel like, God, there's just like 1,000 more things to talk about.
I know. There's not enough hours in the day for.
It's so true.